Hello there, it's your buddy Phil, Project Management Training Coach. We're going to be taking a look at some of the gold nuggets hidden in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. This is a project management masterclass. It's not for people taking a PMP exam. Could they benefit from just hearing the information in the background like osmosis? They can, but I don't want them to focus on this for the PMP exam. All right, so let me get that out of the way. So we're going to be taking a look at page 164 in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. Now, if you go to page 164, you see the transition model. We're going to be talking about the transition model today. And it reads, William Bridges' transition model provides an understanding of what occurs to individuals psychologically when an organizational change takes place. So what we're showing here is a curve that is meant to depict what people go through during an organizational change. Now, this is very similar to the Kubler-Ross model, which I believe was used for some of these ideas. But you have three major zones, and I've highlighted those in red, circled those in red. You've got the endings, transition, and new beginnings. And these are talked about in the 7th edition. So think about it. Someone's going through change in an organization. It could be change of varying proportions. But think about an organizational change. Organizational changes could be very daunting to people. And they have a period at the very beginning, which we call the endings, losing and letting go. And the change is introduced in this first stage. And when people go through this, their feelings could be uncertainty. Their feelings could be denial. And what we mean by denial is thinking this can't be, you know, this is when information begins to sink in and when people behave as if the change isn't taking place. So at this stage, people are just in denial and they carry on as though they didn't hear, as though it didn't happen. So that's the first stage. The next stage PMI talk about in the 7th edition is the neutral zone. And the neutral zone is really more like a transitional zone, all right? The change is happening in this stage. This is when you're going through the thick of the change. In some instances, people feel frustration, resentment, confusion, even anxiety about the change. And you can see on the screen, I've put some of these just words to keep your mind going as far as what people could be going through in an organizational change: resistance, confused. Some people, as they're beginning to transition out, they might begin to think of new ways of doing things. They might become more innovative, but mixed feelings, right? Some people could approach it with a sense of creativity. Some people are going to be confused. You're going to have a mixed bag of all sorts of feelings. And some people become passionate about trying new ways of working. The last one talked about here on page 164 is the new beginning, also called new beginnings. So at this point, people accept and even embrace the change. They're becoming more adept at new skills and new ways of working. People are often open to learning and are energized by the change, but you're still going to have some people who are unsure. Some people might be ambivalent. They might be aloof. They may not really want to act like it's there. So people go through all sorts of changes. But what you can take away from this is that organizational change is huge. And as a leader, one should have empathy for people going through this change. One should understand what the organization is going through is monumental for some people. Case in point, we were going through a massive change in an organization, name withheld, and we were transitioning from this 25 plus 30-year plus old system with the blue screens and all that we used to use to compute earned value and SPI, CPI, all that stuff. And we were going away from this antiquated system into a very modern system. Well, you already know what it is, SAP, right? And think about SAP and the multiplicity of modules and how hard it is to convert from what you're used to something new like SAP. And I'm talking about a decade plus ago. Now imagine that these folks who had dedicated their lives to learning this system, they were really good at this system. And here comes management saying that system is going away. All that you've spent 20 plus years of your life learning, we're no longer going to do it. And of course, those folks who were in the project management field using that tool, a lot of them were project coordinators, program coordinators, PMO people. They were really disappointed and upset. And it's a prime example of how people were confused. They said they were not going to do it. And then management, instead of being empathetic towards them, said, we're going to power up on you. And if you don't want to do it, then you got to leave the company. So it's use this or go. And just all sorts of really horrible feelings and emotions. And that's a bad way of transitioning into change and through change. And that is why some of the stuff that's in the seventh edition, you're going to be hearing me talking more and more about change, because I believe that as a leader, taking your organization through change, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a for-profit, you shouldn't just take it for granted that just roll with it, just get on with it. No, that's very, very poor. Instead, we want to understand transition is the inner psychology that people go through as they internalize and come to terms with the new situation. It's like grief. And that's why the Kubler-Ross model can be seen right on top of this. In fact, you can almost lay the Kubler-Ross model right on top of this, and you see denial, you see resistance, people trying to resist what is coming. You see acceptance in some folks, and then some people begin to explore, exploration, and then you eventually begin to get some commitment and then growth. And so it is important that we manage the psychological piece, and that's why I believe the PMI did put the ADKAR model. We're going to talk about the ADKAR model one of these days, but just remember, everyone experiences that roller coaster of change. You go into the beginning of the curve, and then you're dunked all the way down to the bottom, the bottom of the barrel, of emotions, bad emotions, and then you finally come back up. So I felt this was a good addition in the seventh edition to share with you, because we're used to looking at change management from just the project management standpoint, looking at documents and plans and drawings and configuration management and all that stuff. But in this one, it's a higher level of thinking, much more overarching, taking a look at an organization going through change. So I hope this helps you. See you soon.